listen to this really funny clip from Alex Karp.
Lines of cocaine and away from these short sellers who are going short on a truly great American company, not just ours, but just love pulling down great American companies so that they can pay for their coke. And the best thing that could happen to them is we will lead their coke dealers to their homes after they can't pay their bills. And that's like one of my...
Surely all short sellers...
Yeah, well, go ahead, do your thing, we'll do our thing.
So, as it relates...
Alex Karp coming out of the gutter here, being real with what his opinion is on the short sellers, basically saying, hey, we will take away from your addictions if you try to short sell us, because you will have no money after you try to short an American company. I love it. I think it's funny, and a really interesting clip coming here from Alex Karp. We're going to be talking about some new price targets and what the current high price targets are for Palantir, talking about what we have in terms of trading sessions today and what we could possibly see for the future. So if you're new to the channel or a returning viewer, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, I'm not a financial advisor. Like I always say, I'm collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. Now, Palantir Technologies closes here at 24.43, down about 2% on the day. In terms of the markets, down a little bit, about 0.3% across the board from the big ones like Dow Jones, S&P 500, and NASDAQ. And in terms of other big AI stocks, I always say one of the big drivers here, NVIDIA, also down about 2 to 3%, closing at 879. In terms of Palantir, what you see here is a little bit of support actually forming in consolidation at around this 24.30. And you can see there's been multiple touch points here in recent history. This is back here in February. And what we're seeing right now is that support being tested as we speak. Now, this is really a micro level of support in my opinion. And what I mean by there is that there has not been a lot of trading action that has basically been traded in this area for some time compared to recent history. Looking back, Palantir has not spent a ton of time in the mid-20s right here. So establishing support and consolidation, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And it just gives Palantir more of a grounding for when times do get tough and more chances for reversal points. Now, if you look at PLTR in terms of options, what we do have in terms of trading, end of the day expirations, that's going to be for tomorrow, March 15th. You see at the $25 strike price, 22,000 in terms of call volume compared to the puts right here. The call volume is looking pretty healthy. And you can see here 10,000, even 10,000 in terms of the call volume at the 25.5 and the 26. So people are expecting a little bit of a short-term run up tomorrow in terms of bullish retail and institutional investors. Now, interesting article here by the NASDAQ that covers, how high Wall Street thinks that Palantir can get. And what we've seen with PLTR is actually a little bit of a downgrade from a lot of its analysts regarding its price targets. Now, its main reason for that is because of the high valuation that we're seeing in PLTR. Remember, they beat their Q4 earnings and had that 70% increase in the customer point with the commercial customer count. That caused Palantir to really soar, hitting these new intraday highs and these new level highs, hitting this gap here from the 16s up to the mid-20s. After that, Palantir has been highly valued. There is no disagreeing with that. That is just the data that we have in front of our eyes. But what is the target price? A lot of people are saying that the 75 forward X earnings is a little bit too high for some of these Wall Street analysts, and they're utilizing that as their criticism. However, Palantir has always traded at a high valuation, and so have many of these other AI type stocks. They're trading at high valuations right now, and that's really a gauge, in my opinion, on what the future expectations for future revenue reports are going to be in terms of earnings and in terms of actual earnings per share. With that being said, you do have one Wall Street analyst here, Webush Dan Ives, that we talked to before. He actually recently raised his price target for the tech stock to a new Wall Street high at $35, reiterating his outperform rating. And this indicates another upside potential of 42% to current levels, arguing that PLTR is in the sweet spot to monetize a tidal wave of enterprise spend and now quickly hitting the shores of the tech sector, in our opinion. What he really means by that, and a continuation of this reason, is that PLTR has really a solid foundation in this generative AI wildcard that we like to call artificial intelligence platform, AIP. This has been the company's homegrown generative AI offering, and we've seen incredible results over the previous few quarters, and the catalyst that AIP can be in terms of bringing growth and robustness and exponential increases to PLTR. And even Alex Karp himself has stated that the demand for AIP is unlike anything that we've seen in the past 20 years. We have to remember that Palantir has only been traded in IPO at about 3 years ago, but has been in the game about 20 years. And this is a great reason why I consider them a competitive trader and basically business in the industry, and they're capitalizing on the opportunity of these boot camps. And the boot camps are, you can try AIP for completely free, and they claim that you get a 0 to a use case within 5 days. So what we're seeing on top of the AIP generative AI wildcard is also in addition to getting a shot of adrenaline, you can see here, in terms of the government side of things. And that's just because they recently partnered and they were selected to be the #1 contract with the US Army to deliver 10 Titan Axis nodes. This is a tactical intelligence targeting axis node, which uses a new type of technology to pinpoint enemy targets. So what we see here is Palantir really taking a deep dive into the commercial segment, but also continuing the reputation with their governmental contracts, which was the original revenue source that started to, I want to say, build them credibility and gave them the tools to really dive into the commercial side of things. On top of that, we're also anticipating the inclusion of the S&P 500. When that's going to happen, only time will tell. But what we do know is that PLTR has hit its 5th quarter of GAAP profitability, which also, with the other criteria, Palantir surpasses all those criteria, making it eligible for the inclusion of the S&P 500 index. What we saw at that March 1st quarterly review, a lot of people were expecting PLTR to be included. We had a little bit of a rumor that was kind of trending, kind of more buy the rumor, sell the news, and unfortunately, it was not included in this one. But that does not mean that future quarters, definitely there could be an opportunity for PLTR to be included in those different types of quarterly reviews with the S&P 500. But interesting to see here, especially like I said, with PLTR continuing to grow, holding this price right here and being a leading competitor within the industry. The only type of possible correction pullback that we could see is any changes in the federal interest rate. And what we did see with the core CPI data that was recently released, that came in slightly hotter than expected. This means the probability for the next rate cuts is decreased. That was expected to possibly happen in June. Now the probability could be going down a little bit. However, one bullish thing that the market, I think, is holding in terms of the federal opinion is the fact that they came out and said that we are still anticipating at least some rate cuts in 2024. However, we really need to see, I want to say, lasting and effects being taken on inflation in order to try to reduce the inflation rate. So many things that are at the table, and with these global macroeconomic influences, that could have a large influence on AI stocks, which are more speculative and volatile in nature, and Palantir is included well within that category. That's all that I have for you guys. Take care, peace out, and I'll catch you guys later.